And being that it is also a blue-based deck, has all of the things you'd expect. Force of Wills, you've got your Brainstorms, and this one, very aggressive with its counter magic because it's just going to kill you, has Pact of Negations as well.
Now, we've seen this deck quite a bit. Again, Drew Levin has written about this deck on the premium side of Star City Games, but also our legacy writer on the select side, one of my favorite authors that we do have on staff, Karsten Cotter, has written a lot about show and tell decks over the past couple of weeks. And he wrote an article a couple weeks ago about the differences between this deck as opposed to just sneak and show, the advantages and disadvantages in being on both sides of those decks here. As you see, Krohlow has decided to go with Omnitel versus Tragos, of course, not playing a show and tell deck at all, playing 4-color Cascade. We'll see if both these players are going to keep their hands. It looks like they are. We're going to be underway here. Game number 2, 4-color Cascade down a game, so it's on the play first, sacrificing a polluted Delta to get the show started.
Now, after sideboarding, Peter Tragos does have access to some nice weapons. Arcane Lab is not as good as it would be against a deck like Belcher, but it still has a lot of use to be able to at least slow things down when you're dealing with a deck that is planning on casting, like, big spell followed by spell. But that's not super great as compared to, say, Thoughtseize and Force of Will.
Yeah. Tragos going to start off here just by suspending an Ancestral Vision and passing the turn back. Krohlow going to start, draw his card. We'll see what he has. So you see a show and tell in his hand. He's got an island, got a Force of Will as well, so don't know how quickly he's going to be able to go off. Preordain's going to start the deck manipulation to find the necessary pieces to be able to go off. And again, this deck has plenty of deck manipulation. 4 Brainstorm, 4 Ponder, 4 Preordain. Can't forget about those 2 Gataxian Probes either.
Yeah, I love also that Singleton Intuition.
Yeah.
Intuition, one of my favorite cards. A little expensive for legacy manipulation, so only 1.
Preordain, gonna resolve. Krohlow will draw a card. He'll pass it back to Tragos. Gonna tick that Visions down to 3. Take a draw step. He does have a Tropical Island in his hand. We'll see what else he can find here. Hymnotorak would be a great start for him. Let's see what he wants to do on this second turn of the game here. Again, both these players sitting at 3-0-1. Somehow managing a draw for each of them. And here is a Tarmogoyf. Just a 1-2, excuse me, a 2-3 at this point. We'll get our Tarmogoyf die out there, but there is a land and a sorcery. I don't know if we're going to add to that. We'll keep it at sorcery for now. Going to start with a Ponder.
Fishy Ponder there. Peter Tragos, lands in front of spells, much like Paolo Vitradama de Rosa. I'm also the lands in front of spells kind of guy. My
best friend who taught me how to play Magic, Joe Gagliardi, he's a lands in front of spells guy too. I can't stand it.
It's in the rule book.
Is it in the rule book?
In the Alpha Beta Unlimited revised rule book.
That's awful. That's really, really bad. I see why it's that way now, I guess, but boy, is that bad.
It's really hard when you learn how to play a certain way to change those habits.
Yeah, it's like impossible. I could never do that. Ugh.
One of the things that's really funny is right now in Standard, I still Miracle Draw every draw now.
Yeah, I think people had to change the way they play to make sure they do that. I see a lot of people do that too as I do coverage here, because the first time you miss the Miracle is so frustrating that you don't ever want to see it happen again.
I really hope Wizards doesn't make another mechanic like that.
I hope they do. I do. I like mechanics like that. It was fun.
Sam on the left with Omnitel, just laying islands. Now this Ancestral Visions is basically a bomb waiting to go off for Peter Tragos, but Sam does have the benefit of Peter Tragos being bound by mana. Sometimes a card draw burst is great, but Sam wins in one fell swoop. Can he make that happen?
There's a Hymnotorak. Now, is this going to buy out the Force of Will? That's the question. And I think this is worth Force of Willing.
If nothing else, Hymnotorak is potentially going to be able to grow the Tarmogoyf. Whether it's through a Force of Will or through just the random luck of the draw.
So what you're saying is that Tarmogoyf is going to be at least a 3/4. And if I have Force of Will in my hand, I'm definitely Force of Willing this, because I'd rather just have it be Force of Will and a blue card of my choosing as opposed to 2 random cards. You see Krohlow is going to remove Dream Hulls to that Force of Will, going to take a damage from that. And if you're a Tragos, you can't be thrilled about him removing one of his action cards to be able to win the game with.
Tarmogoyf now sitting at 3/4. Sorcery, instant, and land.
The Tragos has Force of Wills in his deck. He has 3 copies, and you see him kind of thinking about it a little bit here. I thought we might see a fight over that Hymnotorak, but we don't. as here comes the Tarmogoyf into the red zone. It is a 3-4 right now. So Krohlow's going to go a little bit lower.
And we see untap, draw. Is there going to be a show and tell? One of the things that he does not have to worry about when you're playing against Cascade, Cascade changes the kinds of spells that your opponent can play. So there's no need to fear Spell Pierce. There's no need to fear Daze, because it just simply makes no sense to run those cards. However, from the sideboard, Peter Tragos has brought in Flusterstorms. That doesn't stop a show and no, it does stop a show and tell. Pardon me, but. One of the things just to remember, there are very few cards that Sam Krohlow has to worry about compared to other blue decks, which are more likely to have that Daze and Spell Pierce.
All right. So Krohlow's going to sacrifice Blue Delta to get a basic island. Again, this deck is very, very island heavy. It does have some fetch lands to be able to manipulate those Ponders and Brainstorms and make those true cards. But again, this is a deck that has 8 islands, 2 City of Traders, and 1 Ancient Tomb to go along with 8 fetch lands. 8 a little bit heavy on this deck. I don't think this deck typically plays that many, but it's working out for Sam so far, sitting at 3-0-1.
Now you can see that draw that both of these players have. One of the things that happens a lot in Legacy, you can have very long games. So I always like seeing someone that knows how to pace their games so that they don't get that draw. These are two very ponderous players, I think. We see that show and tell. What you got for us, Peter? That's what he's asking him.
It's time to go for it. Connect 4.
Show and tell cheats a non-Planeswalker permanent into play.
Yeah. Could you imagine if they could do Planeswalkers with that card? I think we'd see a lot of Nicol Bolas.
I was going to say, Nicol Bolas.
This looks like a Flusterstorm to me, yeah? Yep.
Flusterstorm. What you got?
Is it time for a fight? I don't know if he has Pack Negation.
He's like, okay, that's fine. Ancestral Visions ticks down to 1. If you were playing when Fairies was playing Ancestral Visions, you know that dread as the time creeps on, and you know that it's coming. Here it comes, the Tarmogoyf, still a 3-4.
Again, sorcery, instant, and land in the graveyard. Not going to see a lot of creatures hiding out in the bin. But yeah, you mentioned Ancestral Visions, it's almost time. And that's a scary, scary thought there. I think Omniscience the draw this turn. We're going to see Preordained, so again, some more deck manipulation. Looking for show and tell yet again. There's a Ponder and a Polluted Delta on the top for Krohlow. So you want either one of those cards. He's not quite sure, you can tell.
I couldn't tell, it was off screen, but I think he bottomed them both. And he did.
Alright, give me a mystery card.
City of Traders was the card he drew. He brainstorms. He's looking to try to do this right now.
Yeah.
Another City of Traders.
Dream Halls is one of those cards. That's an important one. He also has Emrakul in his grip as well.
Dream Halls, blue 3. 5 mana blue spell makes everybody's cards free, provided you pitch a card of the same color.
I remember when this card was banned for a little while.
Yes. The first deck that Zvi Mauschwitz built that really gained major notice on the internet, the so-called Turbo Zvi, which played Dream Halls as the precursor to a very complicated kill that took forever.
That is the world's worst deck name. I'm just going to say that right now. Zvi, if you're watching, don't take that personal. That deck name's awful.
It was a more innocent time.
The Visions is going to resolve here. A bunch of cards are going to come to the grip there for Tragos. His Tarmogoyf still sitting pretty at a 3-4, but Krohlow is setting up a Dream Halls kill. At least he's trying to. I think we might see some discard here now, though. And yeah, that's a Hymn to Torak.
Let's start breaking apart your hand.
He starts shuffling his hand immediately.
I mean, I draw 3, then I have my draw. Now you discard 2 at random. This is starting to look really bad for Sam.
It's tough. This matchup can be really, really tough, especially when you don't have a ley line. You're going to see the die roll 1 through 5. That's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 and 6 are re-rolls for How'd We Do? Cunning Wish, and City of Traders. What do we have left?
So he still has Dream Halls.
Yeah.
He still has Omniscience.
Yeah. I don't think he's doing too bad. Really depends on if Tragos does have a Force of Will in his hand. Also, Tarmogoyf doesn't get any bigger. No enchantment goes to the graveyard. So, you know, if you're looking for positives on Krohlow's side, that's certainly one of them. But Tarmogoyf is putting on the clock right now.
I wonder if he's got a Deathrite Shaman or a land to help things out here.
Yeah, I think the big card for him right now, if you're Tragos, is you're just really hoping you have Force of Will in your hand. You're going to probably feel pretty safe if you do, and you can see one.
Yeah.
There's a Deathrite Shaman that you did mention. So assuming that Tragos does have a blue card in his hand, he's actually sitting pretty well this game.
He misses a land drop, but Deathrite Shaman is pseudo land.
And Krohlow just has to pass the turn back, so that discard ends up being quite good. Hitting City of Traders there was a huge, huge beating.
Peter Tragos currently has Sam on win on your turn or it's over.
Which is the spot you want to put combo decks in.
Particularly when he's holding a Force of Will. That's awesome.
Yep.
A pair of mana tapped there, a Bayou and a Tropical Island.
What do we got here? Baleful Strix, maybe? Okay.
It is a Strix.
Little cantrip in.
Strix is a really cool little owl.
I like that card a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Mostly because it's bad against goblins, but other than that, it's actually just a really, really sweet card.
Yeah, I feel like it pushes the envelope of unfair. Oh, City of Traders Dream Halls, and we know that there's a Force of Will waiting.
Yeah.
Does Sam have the ability to fight back?
Yeah, here's the issue here, because like you're definitely going to Force of Will this, and if Sam had like Force of Will plus a blue card, that would leave him with one card left in his hand and unable to go off. So this is a pretty easy Force of Will for Tragos, making your opponent have perfect, which I'm not convinced perfect even exists in that scenario. But Force of Will is going to get the game over with for Tragos, so we're going to go to game number 3.
Yeah, I mean, is the perfect in that scenario? Wait, that was a Dream Halls, so
Yeah,
there is no perfect in that
scenario. I think the 3-card perfect in that situation is Pact Negation and then blue card Enter the Infinite.
Yeah.
That is the quote perfect. Now, we know that he did not have that in his hand, so no way of getting himself out of that situation. He just has to shuffle up for a third and final game and find one of the more important cards in his sideboard as we do head that way is 4 copies of Leyline of Sanctity. I think this is, the best card that you can sideboard in. Defense Grid is okay, but when you're playing against a 4-color Cascade deck, you're not oftentimes going to find cards like Daze or Spell Pierce. Yeah, we actually did see a Flusterstorm, which is a little bit surprising, but you're not going to find cards like that oftentimes. So I like Leyline a lot to make those Thought Seizes and those Hymn type effects really, really poor. And the rest of the cards in the sideboard are Cunning Wish targets. He's got Pact Negation, Sapphire Charm, Chickbine, Slaughter Pact, Release the Ants, which is the kill condition. Hopefully we'll get to bring that up on the screen for you guys. Intuition, Rushing River, and Eldamari's Call, excuse me.
Leyline of Sanctity, much like Blightsteel Colossus, caused a little bit of I don't know, frustration in a lot of people when they were like, "What? We already have a card that does this, and now you made it free?"
I was wondering how you were gonna transition that into each other. Blightsteel Colossus and Leyline of Sanctity. You didn't do bad.
Leylines are such a powerful weapon in Legacy, primarily because the ability to start the game with an powerful effect. We definitely are used to the black Leyline really causing issues. And one of the reasons that Dredge kind of goes to and fro, whenever Dredge gets up really, really big in a format, if you want to, you can pack in your Tormod's Crypts, you can pack in your Leylines, you can pack in whatever your particular hate is. Rest in Peace is such a monster to the graveyard. Yeah. And the thing about various different decks in Legacy that are super powerful, if you want to beat it, you can beat a deck like Charbelcher. You can beat a deck like Dredge. All of the unfair decks that I think a lot of people that don't play much Legacy complain about, all you got to do is have the will, and you can stop them.
Yeah. I agree. Every deck in Legacy is beatable. There are tools that exist to defeat every single strategy, which is why I like the format.
Yeah, and obviously, the one thing you probably can't do, unless you've just broken it open completely, you can't just beat every deck. You got to pick and choose. You've got to walk into a room and say, you know what? I don't think I need to have an answer to deck X because no one here plays that deck.
All right, well, we're going to go to game number 3 here between Omnitel and the 4-color Cascade deck. Omnitel going to be on the play here. Super powerful deck. Cascade's going to try to stop Omnitel from doing what it's trying to do while also putting on some pressure via Tarmogoyf, as we did see in that second game there. A very ideal draw there for Tragos, starting with Ancestral Vision on Suspend, moving on to Tarmogoyf so he gets his clock out there, and then Disrupt. That's what you want to do.
One of the things about the Cascade decks, whether it's Shardless Bug or this, as he's calling it, Shardless Blood, or if you prefer, you can call it 4-color Cascade, I don't know that it has a huge Achilles heel. In some ways, it's sort of like a rock deck in the sense that it doesn't just overwhelmingly beat, anything. It's just good against stuff.
Yeah. No, I can't argue with that one. That's just the straight up truth. It's just a good card deck.
Yeah.
That's all.
I mean, it might have a slight weakness to a Lucky Burn player.
I suppose that's true. Actually, I think Burn would be a very good matchup. Hello. There's a Leyline.
Oh, Leyline. We were talking about it earlier.
So,
Ivory Mask. Come on.
Oh, no. He has no lands. Did Krohlow draw first?
I don't know. Wow.
We're going to figure that out right now if he chose to draw in this matchup, because that's insane. A Leyline with no lands, there's no way.
I mean, it could... I'm trying to rationalize what I don't believe could be true.
Which is?
I was going to say, well, maybe he's tested this matchup enough and he knows that it's an attrition matchup and he wants to... I'm starting to trail off because I just can't...
I think drawing first, I suppose, is realistic in this matchup. Like, if okay, so he chose to be on the draw.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to be willing to bet that Sam Krohlow has done about 100 times more playing of this matchup than I have.
Alrighty then. Suspend Ancestral Vision there for Tragos. Krohlow willingly choosing to be on the draw so he can have a better chance at hitting Leyline and not have it be such a significant disadvantage.
Okay, so we see our turn 1 play for Krohlow. He lost the last game, chose to be on the draw, lays his island. Now, that Leyline, of course, is destroyable. There is a Maelstrom Pulse that exists in Peter Tragos' 75 cards. That is the only way to get rid of that Leyline.
There's a Deathrite Shaman there for Tragos on turn number 2. So he gets his visions established first, and then he'll be moving on to Deathrite Shaman territory. I like how this game is going. I'm very interested on Krohlow's side to see exactly what he does have in the grip. I know he has at least one Force of Will in his hand, but I really want to see what he's up to over there. If he just has the Stone Nuts against Tragos this game.
Yeah, I see Tragos has a Thoughtseize in hand, so that's not being used.
0 for 1.
Boom! Take 1, 2. I am a Squire. Doing my best Stoneforge Mystic impersonation. Whenever you have the 1-2 coming in, it never feels too good.
Alright, so here's a Brainstorm.
Main phase Brainstorm. We see a Force of Will amongst Sam Krohlow's cards. And that's, gosh. Force, I want to say Delta, City of Traders, Dream Halls. I think I see a Show and Tell, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
This hand does not look great. There's a fetch land to make it a true Brainstorm, but his hand does not look great right now.
Fortunately for him, all he has to face is that 1-2.
Yeah, he's not underneath the actual clock at this point, which is really, really good for Krohlow. Plus, he can defend himself too, right, with those Force of Wills in his hand.
Yeah.
So he's not doing terribly right now. And again, like as you mentioned, time is on his side, at least for right now. You know, it is still scary to see Ancestral Visions go off. I wonder if he's going to choose to fight over Ancestral Visions because there's the potential to draw some dead cards here. We're going to find out as the game does progress. But again, because he's not under a significant amount of pressure, this is actually working out okay for him. Had there be a Tarmogoyf out there, though, we're looking at a completely different story.
Yeah, then there'd be 2 1-2s in play.
Touche.
For a second.
Yeah.
Tarmogoyf gets big real quick.
Yeah.
And for the viewers at home, if you're not familiar with the dulcet sounds of Cedric Phillips' voice, that's who I'm joined with in the booth here. I'm Adrian Sullivan. This is SCG Live. Make sure that you follow us on Twitter at SCG Live. Tweet to us. All of us here, including Glenn Jones, we always are sure to make sure to check out that Twitter. And more importantly, get involved in the conversation. Hashtag SCGCLE. Because you know what? There is a lot of people here in this room talking about their weekend. So you can find out, you know, what those people, their experience is, and get even more info from this awesome Legacy event.
All right.
We were talking earlier about how we really hadn't seen much in the way of Theros cards here in Legacy. Do you think there are any Theros cards to be found?
Swan Song.
Swan Song? I think I actually saw a Swan Song last round in the sideboard.
Yeah.
Indeed, one Swan Song last round.
Outside of that, not too much. I'd love for someone to prove me wrong. Again, I don't think many people thought that there was going to be a big impact from Return to Ravnica. You see Deathrite Shaman, its impact on the format. Same thing can be said about Abrupt Decay. So I love to be proven wrong where, you see a lot of these new big base sets come out, and they're not really meant for Legacy in mind, but some cards do kind of sneak in, and the ones that do are actually really impactful.
Yeah, I mean, Deathrite Shaman you mentioned already, Abrupt Decay. There's a little bit of wear and tear that I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Really, really good split card there.
Creeping Tar Pit. God, that's a good card.
A card I will never activate.
Okay.
I don't think ever in my life.
Okay.
Outside of a cube draft, I don't think I'll ever activate that card.
There we go, there we go.
Nothing personal to the Tar Pit. I like the card, probably as much as you do. But not for me. So let's see what Krohlow is going to do here. I don't know if he's just passing the turn back. He's waiting for his deck back is what he's doing.
I think the card I'm not liable to cast would be a card like Ad Nauseam.
Yeah, it's awesome. The only time I've cast it one time in my entire life, I killed myself with it. So that was good enough for me, actually.
City of Traders, 5 mana.
It's time to fight.
Dream Halls, you got anything to fight with there, Peter? Or is this it? Look at that one counter left on Ancestral Visions.
You see Krohlow's hands right now, too. It looks, he's like so ready to Force of Will. He's like, I'm ready to go to battle right now.
Completely tapped out. Yep. Peter Tragos can only Force of Will here to fight.
Are we Force of Willing back? Will we Force of Will back? I think it's worth fighting over.
A Strix goes away.
What is in that grip? You see he has 2 Force of Wills.
Yep, 2 Force of Wills.
He has at least 1 Cunning Wish.
Come on, leave us.
I mean, he cast it... my thought is that he cast this with the intention of fighting over it. That would be my thought. There's a Force. I'm trying to figure out what to use to counter.
Maybe the other Force of Will.
Yeah, that's what I think too. You see his hand right now? I figured it out. He's got a Scalding Tarn, he's got an Omniscience, and he has a Cunning Wish and a Force of Will. Those are the 4 cards in his hand. So here's the Force of Will. He's trying to figure out what blue card to remove to it. I think he's going to begrudgingly remove Cunning Wish. That's exactly what he's going to do. So this means that Dream Halls is going to resolve. And so what he can do is he can cast Omniscience, removing the other Force Will. That's what he's going to do. And he's got Scalding Tarn left in his hand. He passes the turn back, and this is kind of cross your fingers mode of hoping that everything just works out in your favor.
Well, at this point, Peter Tragos' ability to fight against Sam Krohlow requires a lot. I mean, yes, he's drawing 3 cards, but one of the problems he has here is that there are 3 problem cards in play. The Leyline is going to stop any of the disruption, Thoughtseize, Hymn to Torok, and then 2 different cards in play that can actually help make the combo. Omniscience, of course, the bigger one, but you can still win with the Dream Halls without having the Omniscience out.
Yeah. It takes some more assembly to be able to do that. And, if you look at Tragos' deck list, he has 1 Maelstrom Pulse as a way to get that off of the table. Now, a card that's actually pretty good in this situation for Tragos is Arcane Laboratory. 1 spell per turn is actually really good against this deck. You're going to see a Brainstorm get cast for Tragos. He's looking for help. But again, at the end of the day, Krohlow actually has to be the one to peel here to get back into the situation because he's got a Scalding Tarn in his hand. That's it.
Yeah. Now, the things he can peel, I don't believe he's pitched away an Enter the Infinite.
I do not believe so either.
So that's 4 Enter the Infinite. He has pitched away a Cunning Wish, so 2 Cunning Wish. And then after that, 1 Intuition as the cards he can use just to get out of this. Not to mention all of the 12 various different 1 casting cost cantrips. Of course, he's used some of those, but that is a lot of cards to find some action with.
It looks like Tragos' Brainstorm was not that good of one. I think he may have another Brainstorm in his hand. He's going to start by sacrificing a fetch line to make it a true Brainstorm. Yep. His life total in this game, for the most part, does not matter. It's going to be 1 fell swoop that Tragos will be killed in, so he could go down to 1 and be pretty pleased. So, having a free roll in your life is pretty nice here, but what he needs is action.
He's got that Braincestral Recall because of that fetch. The clock on this game right now, he can do 4 damage this turn, and if he's got more mana in his hand, that means at some point he can change 4 damage into 5 damage. So this is a 3-turn clock right now.
Yeah.
And that's assuming that he doesn't add anything to increase the clock. That's a lot of time to give his opponent here.
I agree with you.
Does he have any Shardless Agents? Does he have any Blood Braid Elves? We'll have to wait and see. 1, 2, 3 mana. I bet you we're going to see an Agent. Agent it is. Agent finds him to Torok.
Bottoms up. Don't have to cast it off Cascade. I'm sure Peter doesn't want to target himself. So bottom we go. I'd be smiling too. I would be smiling too. Boy, oh boy, I'd be smiling.
Another Deathrite Shaman joins the party. And are we going to march in for one with the little squirey Deathrite Shaman? Is there a... yes. With the Deathrite Shaman being held back, the lands that exist in Sam's grave and Peter's grave, Peter is representing that he has a Flusterstorm. Flusterstorm not great against Omniscience.
Mm-hmm. Pact Negation was the draw there for Krohlow, so he just has to pass the turn back, and every turn he's just going to go draw, cross my fingers, draw, cross my fingers, hope I can get it done. Now you take a look at Tragos' board, he's got that Creeping Tar Pit, he's got the Shardless Agent, so if we do an activation here of the Tar Pit, you can leave 1 black mana available. So we can 3, 4, 5 would put Krohlow down to 8. Shardless Agent, a Deathrite Shaman activation would put Krohlow down to 6. So what we can do here, and what I'm checking is, can you make it a 2-turn clock? And the answer is yes.
Yes, he can make it a 2-turn clock. And we see something interesting here. He's checking to see if Ancestral Visions works, being cast as a free spell.
Ooh, Pact.
Wow.
No, Pact is fine actually, because all the spells are free. You're checking for Wasteland.
I'm checking for Wasteland.
Yeah. Safe?
It
Safe
is safe.
on Wasteland? Okay.
No Wastelands.
So Pact Negation is going to try to counter the Ancestral Vision Brain. I think this is going to be a Brainstorm in response.
Spends a blue, finds a Force of Will. Looks like a land and a land.
Any more blue cards over there? I don't think so. Yeah, his hand is Force. I guess he can hardcast Force of Will.
Yeah, he can hardcast it, make it a 5-er.
Yeah, but how good is that, right? Like, if he is hardcasting Force of Will, then he's letting his Visions resolve, but he just put 2 cards back, which are 2 lands, and he doesn't have a fetch land in play, so the cards that he's drawing off of it are 2 lands and then a mystery card, which just aren't very good. And he'd much rather...
keep the Force of Will.
He'd much rather, keep the Force of Will, because now he can counter the next spell that... okay, so hold on a second. Is it still a 2-turn clock now? Krohlow goes down to 11.
And that'll knock him down after the 2 Deathrite Shaman activations down to 7, and then he can be attacked for 5. It is a 2-turn clock.
Okay.
This is actually even more so than that. He's dead if he doesn't win this turn.
Well, he passed the turn back because he just drew a fetch land. So you're going to get a Deathrite Shaman activation, put Krohlow down to 9. Deathrite Shaman activation, put Krohlow down to 7. Untap, Shardless Agent attacks for 2. That's 5. Creeping Tar Pit makes it 3 more, so that puts him to 2, and then a Deathrite Shaman activation makes it
He's
game.
like, he pointed to all the things. That's enough. Are you going to say you're dead?
Yeah. You see him organizing his mana, making sure he doesn't miss anything here. Does Tragos. And so you see a player who has Leyline of Sanctity in play, Omniscience in play, and Dream Halls, and it being no good.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if the pitch of Force pitch, was it Cunning Wish?
Yeah, pitch Cunning Wish.
I kind of wonder if he should have pitched the Force.
Well, I mean, the difficult thing there, right, is he could have went Force, pitching Force, and then his Dream Halls resolves, and I guess he could have just held it, because his last 2 cards are Cunning Wish and Omniscience, and so what he does is that if he just draws a blue card, which he would have done with Pact Negation, he says, cast Omniscience, removing Pact Negation. If that resolves, cast Cunning Wish, kill you, is what Krohlow could have done. As we do see, Peter Tragos is going to win this match 2-1. 4-color Cascade going to defeat Omnitel. Going to give Krohlow his first loss, move him down to 3-1-1. But Tragos with 4-color Cascade, Shardless Blood, if you will, going to move on to 4-0-1. The next card off the top was Enter the Infinite to try to go for the win. But again, we know that Tragos had Forcible in his hand, so that would have been no good either way.
And I'm curious if Tragos is going to do this. Still had all these.
I think he showed him the card. He showed him the Forcible, but he would appeal that. But I actually did have an answer. So the only reason I move in because I know it's for game anyway. So either.